Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 190 of Floating Through Film. This week, we continue our experimental film series with experimental filmmaker Stan Brakhage. Before we get into that, let me introduce my co-host Luke.
Hello.
And Blake.
What's up?
And I'm Danny. Let's start like we always usually do. What do you guys know about Stan Brakhage? Have you seen any of his movies before this week?
Yeah, I've seen a few.
Like which ones?
I think I've seen Stellar. I think I saw Mothlight before. And there might be a couple others too. I'm not.
So some of these like shorts.
Yeah, I think it's basically just been like the kind of like the I don't know what you call
none of the
genre.
earlier ones we watched.
The non-real light, the one like the
not like abstract, more abstract.
Yeah, the abstract ones, maybe you could say.
The color on celluloid.
Yeah.
Non-representational. You know, you could say that almost all his movies in some way, but
yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so you were just trying to boost your stats, basically.
I mean, I'm kidding. Everyone talks about him, you know.
No, yeah, he's
like
his name is like it's impossible not to even know his name. If
he's one of the most talked about. I feel like, and I mean,
and I say that in a very film context because, like, obviously, once you got out of film, it's like, if you don't know who Stan Brakhage is, like,
is this guy?
Like, what are you talking about? I mean, and like, if you like heard about film,
and like, yeah, it's like his posters look really cool, of course.
I mean, they actually are.
No, great collection of those.
Well, actually, it's because they might just be stills from his movies. A lot of these.
A lot of them are, yeah, that would make sense.
That's what just makes them fire.
Yeah.
Like,
even ones that are not like are cool, like Dog Star Man. I don't think that's in the movie.
Okay,
it has, like,
fair enough. I'm just looking at the ones we're doing this week.
Yeah,
the 8 movies.
Yeah, I like.
But is there anything that stands out, like specifically about him? Even now that you've seen these,
they're very like. They're very hard to describe.
I mean, yes, that's definitely on purpose. But yes, also very fair.
It's very like sensory, like especially with like the IRL ones, like he's like showing you a lot of like glimpses of life and stuff that can like that you're supposed to kind of just like feel, I guess. Yeah, it's he also not a lot of narrative, obviously, like no narrative basically.
Or you could say there are, but you really have to read them into it.
Yeah.
I mean, even maybe in the earlier ones especially.
Yeah.
But
no, I was really surprised by his like IRL, the ones that are like him shooting IRL.
For our older audience, what is IRL?
Okay, people don't know older audience. Look it up, Grandpa. Google exists. But like it's like he's very good at shooting like intimate stuff.
Because you were saying before coming in, you had just seen the abstract.
Yeah,
stuff.
I've just seen like the
hand painted,
like, stuff.
Yeah, you said Mothlight.
Mothlight and Stellar.
Had you seen? Because Mothlight's not hand painted technically. That's technically is the real object.
Yeah, but like you get what I mean.
I mean, honestly, talking about those distinctions are what makes him.
Yeah. But do you have a guess on which one was like? Because I said to Dane before this, like one of these is like one of my favorite first watches of the year, probably. Do you have a guess?
Dante Quartet?
No.
Is it the birth one?
No.
Why'd you say it like that?
Yeah,
honestly, couldn't. I wasn't surprised. I was actually.
That was probably my favorite one that we watched.
I know it's good. It's just not the subject matter I like it.
I wasn't expecting it, but it's like beautiful and.
No, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying the subject matter it makes me very squirmy.
Well then,
I wasn't expecting
to
watch that.
No.
So.
Stargarden is
okay. Like I only have 8 guesses. Anticipation of the Night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I can see.
I like that.
Honestly, that might be my favorite too.
It's like incredible, bro.
But I mean, all of these are pretty close.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's tough because like he's made almost like 350, 400 movies or something like that, and I hadn't watched him that much until I knew I was gonna do him for the series.
When I knew I had to boost my
Actually,
stats.
even though I've always known like, I hadn't decided like what this. I knew I was gonna do experimental film series.
Yeah.
But I had never really because I just knew like if I'm gonna watch Stan Brakhage, he's like one of those directors I'm gonna spend a lot of time watching because like he has such a big body of work and he's obviously very, as we're going to talk about later in this episode, he's obviously interested in a lot of things that I just find very essential to cinema. Especially like the non-describable part, which is kind of funny saying that on a podcast.
Please listen to us describe
theoretically talking about the movies, but actually that's also why I love these movies too, is because like he really makes you think about like what watching a movie is in the first place. But before I get started on this week's, Blake, what about you? Have you seen Brakhage before this? Or?
No, I hadn't seen any Brakhage before this.
Did you know anything about him?
No, I didn't know anything about him either, honestly. I mean, I had like a lot of his movies downloaded. I've just never gotten to them before. And I do know that I obviously knew he was an experimental filmmaker, but just had no experiences watching this man before. That's why watching all these in succession, I have like it's like you've given us like a glimpse into kind of the types of movies he's interested in making, because a lot of these are very different, obviously, like we've already said. But like, I don't know, like the in real life stuff, IRL grandpa.
The fact that he combined them, he said in real L or what did you say?
I said in real life stuff.
No, but the first time I think you combined it. You said like in RL life or something.
No, I did not.
We'll run the tape back later. But.
No, because I wasn't expecting, especially the more documentary-like movies, to be so visceral. Honestly, like that's kind of what I liked the most.
No, you pick like the two things I'm most squirmish about.
Like for real,
people giving birth and people like dead people.
But see, that's also like what.
I mean, you could say that's why he's picked them.
Yeah,
in the first place.
Because I watched both those back to back, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
I had to take a break after those two.
No, honestly, we'll get into those specifically, but yeah, especially Window Water baby movie. It is like it's makes me squeamish too, but it is a very beautiful movie.
Not the fucking autopsy.
I mean that one also as well, but okay, we'll get into those.
You're seeing dong and you're seeing inside of people's bodies, bro. Like it's just too much.
We'll get to
that one. Was a lot.
Wait, but keep going. Is there anything that stands out though? Like I asked Luke.
I mean,
technique wise, because that's a
lot of it is. It makes me tired to watch, honestly, I'm not going to lie, just because he cuts so much and so frequently, and it's just a lot of stuff that I personally don't know a lot about. Like, I don't know the specific camera techniques he's using, like, because I'm not a photographer or anything. But it's still really interesting to watch. It's just also very tiring on my eyes.
No, yeah, I agree.
I mean, not even techniques. Like, what makes it tiring is just the rapid cut.
The rapidity.
There's a lot to take in, usually.
A lot to take in, 100%.
But I would definitely say mostly just how rapid it is, because it is very fast.
Yeah.
But that's also kind of why I liked the straight on paint celluloid stuff, because that stuff makes a lot. Like I really like seeing the colors more so. I guess.
And I also think the fact that there's no sound either also maybe makes it more exhausting, because like music kind of lets you like lull a little bit sometimes if there's music, and he doesn't have music, so you're kind of like your brain has to pay more attention. Like.
I mean, yeah.
It's the same way, kind of like how you watch silent films, maybe.
100%.
But even though it was tiring, it still was very rewarding, especially in Anticipation of the Night, because like that was my favorite ending, I think, of any of the movies we watched this week. It'll probably be the most memorable part of these 8 movies, at least that we did also for me. But
it definitely is very memorable.
Because that kind of like brought the whole movie around of what he was trying to do for me at the very least. But
yes. No, I can definitely see that.
But yeah, I don't have like a lot of actual experience just like watching him. I don't know like what he's trying to do or anything. Like I know last week you said that he was like the antithesis of Maya Deren kind of, but
well, actually that's how I'm going to start this episode.
One of the movies is like dedicated to it, right?
The last movie. Actually, yeah, the last movie, yeah, Water from Maya. Is dedicated to her. That's actually, I mean, obviously partly I picked this because we did Maya Deren.
No, I noticed because it was like probably like the least popular one you chose. I'm pretty sure.
Oh really?
I think so, because when I saw it, I was like, of course, this is why.
I mean, it's also one of his last movies too, because I was trying to go throughout his timeline too. I almost got one in every decade, so I got like
fanboy. You can admit it.
Well, he was too. Like I was saying, it's one of his last movies. And actually, I was gonna say why I picked it at the end, but I can say it now because like. I honestly might not have picked it, but I even remember like I talked about it last week with Maya Deren that when I was like thinking about the endings of all three movies, how I like realized how all three of them end like on the water, basically, her going in the water, almost like escaping the water, like all three movies. And that's why if you read the description for Water for Maya, it says that's how Stan Brakhage like even came up with the idea of the movie. He was doing an interview for a documentary called In the Mirror of Maya Deren, and he said during the interview he realized like basically how much water influences Maya Deren's movies. So yeah, I mean also the movie's like amazing. It's gorgeous.
Have you seen In the Mirror of Maya Deren?
I had watched it a long time ago. Actually, the picture we have for the floating through film on the YouTube, it's like because you know how I use a filmmaker's picture.
Oh yeah.
It's from that movie. I guess you guys technically haven't seen it yet, but I mean Blake's brought up how it's gonna start. Well, okay, I'm trying to be good about this, so I'm bringing up my sources. First is Brakhage wrote a lot, and he has a lot of lectures, and so like I didn't get to read like as nearly as much as I'd want to about his works, especially the stuff he wrote, because he also gave a lot of lectures on like he has this book of lectures on Eisenstein, Griffith. I forgot there's a few others, but I remember those.
Was he like a big hater?
No, he loved them.
Okay.
He actually did like going to watch movies, even though like he was very anti,
Like
for his own
like
art.
Eisenstein.
Wait, what?
So I feel like he would have to like Eisenstein.
Oh yes, no, 100. Yes, exactly. This rapid cutting.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like using Eisenstein for like as I'm going to mention in a moment, like almost like the home movie or like a personal movie kind of.
Yeah.
But okay, I was going to mention my sources. So this is like maybe one of his essential texts that he wrote. Like he wrote this while he was either making Anticipation of the Night or right after. It's called Metaphors on Vision, and that's where I'm going to have like some of these quotes I read. And then also the same book I mentioned last week, Light Moving in Time: Studies in Visual Aesthetics of Avant-Garde Film by William C. Wees. He has 2 chapters specifically for Brakhage, which are really good. And then there's this book called Stan Brakhage Filmmaker, which has a bunch of essays. And I have I'm taking from 2 essays. One by Bruce Elder called Brakhage Poesis, and the other called Stan Brakhage: The Activity of His Nature by David James. And then P. Adam Sitney also gave this. You can actually find on YouTube. He gave this lecture series on like he called it the uniqueness of the cinematic image, and one of the filmmakers he talks about is Brakhage. But yeah, okay. So Blake mentioned first, which one of you mentioned Maya Deren? Oh yeah, Brakhage is like being an antithesis almost, because it's crazy. I don't know if she had seen. I forgot when she wrote this actually, but she had definitely seen some like basically abstract cinema, and obviously the early avant-garde cinema that we did in week 1. She had seen, but she says, "quote," and she's talking about basically how the camera, how much control creatively does the camera allow, basically, versus just like representing what it sees. And she says, quote, "While the process permits some intrusion by the artist as a modifier of that image, the limits of its tolerance can be defined as that point at which the original reality becomes unrecognizable or is irrelevant." And then she says in parentheses, "As when a red reflection in a pond is used for its shape and color only, and without contextual concern for the water or the pond." And then she says, "In such cases, the camera itself has been conceived of as the artist, with distorting lenses, multiple superimpositions, etc., used to simulate the creative action of the eye, the memory, etc. Such well-intentioned efforts to use the medium creatively, by forcibly inserting the creative act in the position it traditionally occupies in the visual arts, accomplish instead the destruction of the photographic image as reality." And if you kind of see what she's saying there, like, you could say she's kind of almost describing, at least she uses some of the techniques that Brakhage specifically uses, distorting lenses, multiple superimpositions. What she's saying is like, basically, once you start doing that, you're destroying the image as a photographic reality in itself. You're almost like you're making it creative. You like, instead of the cameras, and she's saying that almost like as a negative, right? Because her whole thing was like she wanted to still film actual reality, photographic reality, and then through montage or editing, change time in a way.
Yeah.
But this is like Brackage's whole technique is like, he's using the camera as the creative medium itself, by doing all these different things. Like, he has so many techniques, and that's honestly why I'm glad we did all these different types of films because.
Yeah.
We obviously we didn't go even like touch the surface of all the films he did, but at least it's somewhat good.
Unless you do like maybe a full series, but even then,
No,
it's like 30 movies an episode.
Damn.
That'd be insane.
Also, it'd be hard to find a lot of those too.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. I don't know.
Are they not on an Internet Archive or something, maybe?
I mean, I know some of them are, but I was having trouble finding some of them, but maybe I didn't look hard enough. But then this is also another thing why I say that split is important, because Jonas Mekas, and he says this when he's actually writing like this thing about My Darren I think I mentioned last week, where he says, quote, "As far as our films went, to us they were part of the classic cinema. We admired them in the same way that we admired the films of Man Ray or Hans Richter, Jean Cocteau or Marcel Duchamp. But we were waiting for something that would come from our generation. For me, that something happened with Stan Brackage's first New York show in 1956 at the 100th Street Living Theater Space. Suddenly I felt here was a cinema that touched the deepest nerves of my sensibility. It was electrifying. It was no longer just a continuation of the 20s or 30s. It had nothing to do with symbolism, serialism, or classic eternal aesthetic values. It was all about the filmmaker himself, standing almost naked in front of us," unquote. And I mean, I feel like you can definitely see the difference. Like, I talked about last week of how My Darren was almost like anti-being personal, like art should be depersonal. Like, it should be a ritual object for everyone, that's why it shouldn't be personal. And then Brakhage is like the opposite of that. His films are super personal, he's only filming like personal
very
things.
Intrusive sometimes.
Yes, extremely. Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Like, not even in his own life, but
Yeah.
because the mortuary shit, like, that's very intrusive just in general, and like life and how life works.
It is, yeah. You could say all of these are in a way, like even the moth one, moth, like he's using the moth's dead bodies and wings and yeah, that's what's like it's so interesting. That's why Jonas, obviously, I haven't even seen Jonas Mekas' movies, but I know he made very diary films,
Yeah.
so you can see why he says that.
Are you going to watch them like soon?
I mean, yeah, I'll watch them at some point.
100%.
They're very long. They're super long too.
So you're never gonna watch?
How long?
I'll watch. Okay, get out of here. I'm
I
not like
believe
you.
you
I'm not like
until
you.
you log them.
I'm not like you with the Frank Borzage.
How long?
You say that, but I might have a Frank Borzage in my top 10.
How long are they though?
Some of them are
First
really
watch of
long.
the
I don't
year.
know. But, how long are some of his movies? They're probably in like the 2-3
I
hours.
think Reminiscence of a Journey to Lithuania is like 3-4 hours.
Damn.
Or no, I'm thinking of not that one. It's the one where it's like, as I was moving ahead, I occasionally saw brief glimpses of beauty. That one's like
That's
4
a fire
hours.
title though.
That one's like 4 or 5
That's a
hours
fun-
long, I think.
I mean, I was even like doing this while typing some of the notes for this. Like, damn, Brakhage has some long titles. Like,
No, he has some good
Uh,
titles, though.
no, these are great
Oh,
titles.
these are amazing titles.
Especially after you see the movies too.
But I might have a Frank Borzage in my top 10 list this year again. So stay tuned.
But you never talk about them though.
I never have
DI
to
pick.
listen
I don't even know how that makes sense.
to. I mean, no one knows what that means anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so last week I talked about how like Maya Deren defined the artist, and I have a quote from Brakhage, where honestly, in a way, it sounds similar to how Maya Deren talked about the artist, where he says, and then and especially this last line, you could say basically is true throughout his career. For all these films, because he wrote this in like either the late 50s or early 60s. So, quote, "The artist has carried the tradition of vision and visualization down through the ages. In the present time, a very few have continued the process of visual perception in its deepest sense and transformed their inspiration into cinematic experiences. They create a new language made possible by the moving picture image. They create where fear before them has created the greatest necessity. They are essentially preoccupied by and deal imagistically with birth, sex, death, and the search for God," unquote. And like you could say maybe that's like the theme of his movies is that those last 4 parts: birth, sex, death, and the search for God.
For sure.
And he even says that in some video I was watching that he did years later. He says he was reading a quote from this book, and he's like, yeah, that's basically true for all my films still. But
wait, if you would you say you categorize all his movies into those 4 categories?
I don't know if they'd be harsh categories like that.
Because I mean, birth, you could say the window. Water
maybe these ones, maybe you could do
the
almost.
water one, the baby birth one. Would be birth. The fucking the autopsy one is death. What are the other 2?
Anticipation of the Night is all of them.
Sex, I don't really.
Well, maybe not sex.
I don't know where.
Unless you could get some, you could read in there somewhere. Maybe I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe one of the animals.
Doesn't he have one
sex
for
or
doesn't he have a movie dedicated to his wife or whatever? Could that be the sex?
He does have one for Marilyn.
And then
well, I don't know what Water from Maya would be. Maybe Search for God.
Yeah, Search for God. I feel a lot of his abstract ones maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Even then, there's still some of his movies that
No, it's probably I don't know. Maybe he says that Of course, he made 350 movies, so maybe all of them don't fit neatly into these categories.
Yeah.
But I think it's more he feels like he's always filming something about direct life in some ways.
Yeah.
And so if direct life is basically about one of these 4 things for him, almost,
Yeah.
And I've seen a few people say this, but I'll say what David L. James said. That he's one of the authors that wrote one of those essays I mentioned earlier. He says Brackage's practices and principles constitute the most radical intervention by a single individual in the medium's history. I think, that's a pretty bold statement too, because I think that's that's why he's in the same breath as Eisenstein, because it's almost he pushed this to the extreme. So even you don't have to be this extreme as Brakhage, but you can apply these principles in narrative cinema. You can apply distorting the lens, all this kind of stuff, and use it creatively.
I would say the most impressive thing I thought watching this about Brakhage was how did he have this in his head? Basically, how did he think to piece it together like this?
Yes. No. 100%.
Just because I was because some of these shots are just random, what I would consider random shots of everyday life that he just decided to place in specific moments of his movie. And I'm just I don't know.
100%. He was filming a lot of this and then not knowing how he's going to use it until later.
It's just
and actually that goes exactly into what I was going to read this quote from David James where he says, quote, Brakhage basically, quote, made an art version of home movies in which family life and the filmmaking it engendered were lived as an aesthetic process. So basically making an art version of the home movie, almost like I said earlier, kind of taking Eisenstein's principles, these filmic principles, and applying them to very personal filmmaking, home movie filmmaking, to where now you can even get these techniques in very narrative cinema to be to show people that are really close to each other or something. A filmmaker I'm going to mention, I think of a lot when I see Brakhage as Malik.
No, Anticipation of the Night.
For how close you can feel the camera to the whatever it's filming.
Anticipation of the Night, I literally was did Malik study this before he made Tree of Life? Because a lot of the childhood sections of Tree of Life.
I mean, and Star Garden too.
And
just the use of sun.
Star Garden's really good.
The way that Brakhage moved the camera, it was damn. Malik. It seems Malik had to have really studied this for making the childhood scenes in Tree of Life.
Would Malik's movies be better if they were silent?
I mean, I could see. Well,
without this.
Let me raise you one. Let me raise you one because I mentioned earlier about how he would teach Eisenstein, and he mentioned this today that I thought is so great that he would teach Ivan the Terrible 1 and 2, but he would teach the whole film with it out of focus, just so because he said that would emphasize basically the form, how precise Eisenstein is in just his forms and stuff. And he's talking about a scene where he bends his beard over and the beard connects with whatever's underneath the frame or something. And he's you can notice all these things. You can even notice the colors way better if you just put everything out of focus and watch the whole film.
So you mean the colors in that one scene in both those movies? There's one scene with color.
No, but I mean the black and whites though.
Oh, okay.
I mean you can consider that color.
Technically, that's not color. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that.
Wait, black and white not color?
I'm joking.
You getting philosophical here? Okay.
It was a joke.
What are you saying? Those extreme.
Don't
those are the two endpoints of color.
Don't unleash your philosophical attacks on me.
It's not an attack. I was asking. You literally said black and white is not color, so I was just wondering.
I'm trying to be a funny, goofy.
Or you wanted to say like technically. I forgot. I think I actually wrote this in some like essay once in college. It was like because technically black and white, like black and white movies aren't technically black and white. They're all gray versions of gray. You know. But that's a different point because it's a different point. Like, what is black and white versus like, well, you know.
You probably got 100 on that essay.
No, I didn't. I don't remember. But you mentioned Malick earlier too, because William C. Weiss, he says you could say this is maybe very similar to how people would describe Malick. He says, "quote Translating sensuous knowledge into visual art has been Brackage's greatest accomplishment as a filmmaker." And honestly, Malick is very similar too, right? This like where Malick's movies are about feelings and like yeah, and then before I get to like my main theme for this week, let me read this quote where honestly you could say this is this is Brackage's definition of experimental, where he says, quote, almost all my movements and reactions are instinctive and geared towards finding something out rather than stating something already discovered. In this context, all my films are experimental, unquote. And I mean, I know Blake said it. I think a couple weeks ago he said just trying shit, you know, experimental. He's basically saying that in a way like his movements and reactions geared towards finding something rather than just filming something already there. Yeah. You know? But yeah, you could say one of the. I guess I can ask it first this way. When I say the words untutored eye, does anything come to your head?
Like a child's eye.
Yes. Okay, and what about a child's eye versus why is that untutored?
It's like there's a newness to it, like they haven't seen. They're like getting first impressions of everything. It has not been. It's unsaturated.
Okay.
It's experiencing new.
Seeing the world through innocent eyes.
Yeah.
Yes. Everything new. I mean, yes, especially all those things. I mean, is there anything else that comes to your mind? No. Okay.
Anticipation of the night.
Well, yeah, especially because the Anticipation of the Night is 100%. I mean, you could say it's like about this kind of theme specifically. But Brakhage would say all his movies are about this because this is like the first paragraph of Metaphor and Vision, but you could say it's maybe a theme for his whole life. Where he says, quote, Imagine an eye unruled by man-made laws of perspective, an eye unprejudiced by compositional logic, an eye in which does not respond to the name of everything, but which must know each object encountered in life through an adventure of perception. How many colors are there in a field of grass to the crawling baby unaware of quote-unquote green? How many rainbows can light create for the untutored eye? How aware of variations in heat waves can the eye be? Imagine a world alive with incomprehensible objects and shimmering with an endless variety of movement and innumerable gradations of color. Imagine a world before, quote, beginning was the word, unquote. Yeah, like, I mean, I think it kind of speaks for itself, but just this idea of, like you said, seeing everything new, you know. Apparently, like in William C. Weiss' books, he talks about this kind of history of, like vision and stuff in a way. I won't get too much into the details, but for like, I guess this was in the early, like, 19th century and stuff. There's this group of, like, psychologists called the Associationist group. And they basically saw a version of the child seen as the child is like basically born into chaos or is born into untutoredness, you know.
Yeah.
And then they learn to see better. You know, they get the tutored eye.
Yeah.
But there's these like kind of artists and even psychologists that basically kind of had problems with this kind of view because they basically thought like you're kind of giving up a lot of vision by training this tutored eye versus giving up this kind of untutored eye of seeing everything new. Yeah. He says, John Ruskin says, there's this long quote I won't read, but he says, quote, very few people have any idea that sunlighted grass is yellow. Because then he goes on, because he's talking about how basically if you ask someone what color is grass. They'll say it's green, right?
Yeah.
But if you actually trust what your eye sees, it depends on if the sun is hitting it or not, right? If someone had never seen grass before, and the first time they saw grass was the sun was hitting it, what color would they say it was? They would say it's yellow, right? But
depends on what time of day, you know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If the sun's hitting it, and if they've never seen it before.
Well, technically, the sun's always hitting the grass.
Except at night.
Checkmate.
So not technically not true.
Checkmate, liberal.
Except for half the time. Like what? You just said half the.
Well, it'd be black at night though.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's true. Like, but if you ask someone what color grass, they'll say green. You know, like versus actually, if your eye sees it, it changes. Like, I mean, you're kind of proving my point. Yeah, the grass is never the same color in a way. You know, based on what your eye sees. But he's just talking about what your son. I don't know why you're laughing.
It's just funny how worked up you got right there.
Wait, what?
He's got like had you there.
How?
I'm just joking. It's just funny. It's just funny. You don't understand. We're laughing with you, not at you.
I'm still confused. But
I mean, if you ask someone that watched what's the Days of Heaven, what color grass is, it would definitely be gold.
Gold. I mean, yeah, that's what he means by yellow.
Yeah.
Say, but
Danny hates that movie, so
he does.
I mean, I was going to bring that up later. I might still bring it up later, but
continue.
Because he says one of the artists, like even before we get to film, some of the artists that really emphasize this kind of waves of seeing are the Impressionists.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you see Impressionist paintings, you can see kind of why this kind of like Luke even I think he said first impressions at some point. And Monet, this is a famous quote from Monet where he talks about how you should view nature if you're going to go try to paint it. And he says, quote, "When you go out to paint, try to forget what objects you have before you, a tree, a house, a field, or whatever. Merely think, here's a little square of blue, here's an oblong of pink, here's a streak of yellow, and paint it just as it looks to you, the exact color and shape, until it gives you your own naive impression of the scene before you." Unquote. This is, I mean, in the book, Brakhage's book is called Metaphors on Vision. But he basically sees vision as what he calls metaphoric creation. In a way of, basically, when you see something, you are creating your reality, you know?
Yes.
And he says this is either done in two ways. One is good, which is either directly inspired by nature, by directly what you're seeing. But usually most people see what he says is what are watered down by cliches of others already, you know? This idea of what we already see of grass, you know, so we don't have to look at it, you know, because we already know what grass is. This type of idea. And he goes on this long rant, but he gives this great idea. I mean, he like tells parents, basically, if you see your children painting the sky and you tell them to paint it blue and they actually paint it yellow or red or something, don't just get mad at them and tell them to paint it blue. He says you should marvel at those who remain still representationally dissatisfied. And then he says, respect those young ones who use any and all of the wax spectrum, talking about crayons, which is so funny.
Wax spectrum.
Yeah. But it's just a great way of thinking about that, you know, because like this is like he's like that's what he's trying to reach, decide what just the simple way kids see, you know, the world.
Yeah.
And then William Weiss says he says the principle underlying all of Brakhage's experimental visualizations of sight is that there is no single correct representation of objects in space. And that's a very central view, because most people would say, yes, there is a correct way we see the world normally, and then Brakhage is kind of distorting, you know, he's trying to create some kind of creative distortion.
Yeah.
But he would say, he's like, no, I'm actually filming like how we actually see the world, you know, our actual way we scan reality, kind of how we get first impressions, at least when we're actually seeing things, you know. But actually, this is where I was actually going to mention this, because he says, William Weiss says, like, maybe one of the main differences between the avant-garde and narrative cinema is that the avant-garde cinema doesn't need narrative excuses to justify rejection of lens subjectivity. But you can also take that further and be like, if you want to compare Days of Heaven to like Star Garden, and if both their goals were to film basically sunlight, one of them has to have narrative excuses to justify it, and Brackage's like, I don't need that. I'm just gonna go film sunlight and my kids. And he could say that's like the main difference between avant-garde. At least that's what he's saying. But he just uses lens objectivity. But I would say you could even go further with that. And then there's a couple, like there's one artist he uses that basically has this like way of like distinguishing the visual world in terms of like how we could see it. But I'm going to use this other, and his name is Jim Jackson's, and it's this framework of seeing. But it goes very similar to what also I'm going to mention is this psychologist named James L. Gibson. And he made this distinction between the visual field and the visual world. And he says basically the visual world is like kind of like... actually, let me just read the differences and it'll make more sense. Because he says, Gibson finds that the visual field has a frame, an oval boundary marking the limits of the eye's visual angle. Within the frame, there is a central to peripheral gradient of clarity. In contrast, the visual world has no frame and no noticeable center. It is panoramic and seems clearly focused throughout. The visual field is unstable, changing with every movement of the eyes and turn of the head. The visual world is stable. Things stay where they are, no matter how much our eyes move about. In the visual field, three-dimensionality is reduced. There's less distinction between figure and ground, or between objects and their interspaces. Forms eclipse each other rather than seeming to be in front of each other, as they appear to be in the visual world. Perhaps most important of all, the visual field evokes a self-consciousness about the act of perception itself. It is, says Gibson, an introspective or analytic phenomenon. What we see seems less completely outside of us because we are aware of our special effort to see it. The visual world, on the other hand, seems totally independent of our act of perceiving. It is simply there. In Gibson's terms, the visual field derives from our experience when we introspect, and the visual world from our experience when we do not. And if that, I mean, I know that was long, but I think it was important because, like, you could say basically Brackage's films are about this visual field he's talking about. These kind of things we see when we're actually paying attention to what we're seeing. And the visual world is like the kind of things we know when we see, without actually seeing. And the grass green being a classic example. And to kind of give some quotes about this from Brakhage himself. He says, quote, "Everything is new to the eye. Everything at every instant is new. Only in long take it begins to decay and get old, so that first impression, fully realized, fully lived, that is fixed for all time." And then he says, quote, "So the whole point is, in bouncing light off things, or catching it however some, that everything shall be something integrally new. It will be new anyway. But if it doesn't maintain its newness, then I have failed, because I'm new at every given moment," unquote. And then this last one, quote, "I have increasingly worked with this quality of seeing, this jumping," he says. "The problem is that most people are reading these films out of the trained experience of normal film. To them, my film is making a statement about the subject or person is jumping and leaping about. But what I'm really stating is that the eyes jump and move about," unquote. And so, yeah, like this kind of newness, in one way he puts it is, instead of letting the mind's eye control, he says you should let the eye's mind control, if that makes sense, So, like, usually instead of letting your mind control your eye, like let your eye control your mind in a way, Yeah. And that's like untutored vision. And Brakhage says, like, in some of these films, I'm not even sure, like, you could say definitely into Especially the Night and stuff, but he probably even has more films that even focus on some of these aspects. But he says throughout his films, Sidney actually says this, Brakhage theoretically, by the way, the nature of vision is at least threefold, or can be divided into three categories. Open eye vision, which is, seeing when your eyes open. Hypnagogic vision, which is basically like when your eyes are closed and you can still see lights and stuff. Basically, like when you're going to sleep, you can still see stuff.
That light's not that much shining right now.
And then also closed eye vision too. And then he says, basically these
I'm doing a Stan Brakhage movie right now.
I mean, there you go. You're making a movie right now.
Sadly, no one will be able to see it.
Well, see, that's the easy part. I mean, he would say, actually, that's a really good thing if he's at least making you notice new ways of seeing in a way. But this is the difficult part. What makes Brakhage so special is like he had to find this is the metaphor on vision, right? This is what cinema is trying to do. He's trying to make a metaphor on it, in a filmic way to make you have these kind of experiences. I mean, Sidney doesn't say it this way, but I think William C. Weaves puts it like he gives some examples of like different types of vision that we don't normally notice that are happening, but in Brakhage's films you can kind of notice them, like basically blinking. How we always blink to what Brakhage says, like we blink basically to create a new image.
Yeah.
Actually, can you Google the word saccade?
How do you spell that?
Saccade.
Saccade.
Aede.
AD. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Wait. Rapid movement of the eye between fixation points.
Yeah, I mean, like when Blake's talk about the rapidity of Brakhage in the beginning. Saccade movements are basically the side, like when your eyes are going, when you're actually seeing something, you rarely hang on something for a long time. You're usually scanning about. Your eyes are actually anyway. Even if your mind is not actually focused on that part.
You said this word really peaked in around like 2018.
Google says that?
Yeah, apparently.
Google know that.
It comes from the old French word saccare, which then went into saccade, which is French for violent pool. And then saccade to jerking movement in the early 18th century.
I mean, okay, long story short, Brakhage would say the untutored eye, which includes a saccade movement. That's why I read the definition, because I just wanted to see like how clear, like that word rapid especially, fits Brakhage. But
yeah,
Brakhage says the untutored eye includes all seeing that is not mediated or organized or explained by the tutored part of the mind. And then this is where the Brakhage gives some of his recommendations on how you can untutor the mind, or actually not the mind, untutor the camera eye to kind of achieve some of these effects. He says you can spit on the lens, you can over or underexpose the film, to quote use the filters of the world, fog, downpours, unbalanced lights, neons with neurotic color temperatures, glass which was never designed for a camera, to use outdoor film indoors and indoor film outdoors, and to shoot during those times when the film labs will guarantee nothing. And then this is William C. Weaves where he says, these are ways of untutoring the camera eye, just as staring without blinking, or concentrating on peripheral vision, or becoming attuned to phosphenes or visual noise can help to untutor the vision of the human eye. And then he talks about actually because I mentioned this last week with Hans Richter pointing, or I think it was a critic pointing out about Hans Richter's films being like a canvas instead of like a window. And Brakhage actually talks about this in his book where he says the eye and the camera. Actually, I think this is William C. Weaves. Actually, sorry, not Brakhage, but he's talking about Brakhage, where he says the eye and the camera are not just windows, right, that we look through to see reality, but they actually make what we see, literally. Like, they actually have to go through all this mediation process. Light hits this film, it has to get edited, etc., etc. It has to hit a certain type of film at a certain type of light, and then finally we see it. But then most of the time we ignore all this mediation process, We just pretend it's like a window, like something was filmed and then we're seeing it. But you could say Brakhage's whole films are about this mediation, this making, this vision that it creates. The same way the film creates what we see, not just is a window, And Bruce Elder says, because Brakhage gets very specific when he's talking about this. Like he even says, like he's trying to show the vision of like what it's like when the light actually hits your optic nerves, like literally, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like basically Bruce Elder says like Brakhage uses the optic nerves as what he says a metonym. Do you guys know what a metonym is?
No.
What?
It basically like it means like using a word to describe like a greater group. Like
say the word again.
Metonym.
So it's like antonym.
Like I know the definition. The example it gives in the dictionary is like using the word Washington for the government.
Metonymy. That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
The substitution of the name of an attribute or adjunct for that of the thing meant. For example, suit for business executive or the track for horse racing.
Yeah, so in this case, it would be like optic nerves. That's his metonym for basically this idea that all vision is a physiological process. It is body mediated. You know, vision goes through the body before we see it. So then, if that's true, this is where Bruce Elder's essay really came in, because I've kind of established this idea of like vision is created by the body. You know, it's not just a window. It's actually something that has to be created in a way. So then, like, my second part is basically what is the body taking part in when it records? And this is what Bruce Elder kind of says is the tension of Brackage's movies. Is he says the tension of Brackage's films are between images as representing contents of consciousness, or images as being formed as something that embodies energies of a greater field of being. And I know that
metonymy. You pronounced it wrong. Metonymy.
I mean, like, damn,
Metonymy sounds good.
Metonymy.
I mean, that's good to know, though. Because I actually remember this. I brought this up. Sydney brought this up in the Brisson episode, too.
Okay, you said that like it's your boy.
Sydney?
My boy Sydney.
I know, he kind of is at this point, dude.
No, I respect it.
But, basically, not to get too philosophical, but, he says basically the tension in his Brackage's films is between a solipsistic sense of self. Basically this idea of like everything is in the mind, you know? Like everything is the self, like everything is through you. He's like the tension between that, you know, this very personal, this kind of
solipsistic's a crazy word.
Look up solipsism. You're the definition guy now.
Solipsism.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I know how to pronounce or spell that.
There's no chance.
I got pretty close.
Solipsism.
The quality, there's two. Okay, the first one is the quality of being very self-centered or selfish, but the philosophy definition is the view or theory that the self is all that can be known to exist.
I mean, those two are very connected too, because a lot of people in philosophy hate this version of philosophy because of the first part. You know, they see it as very selfish because, like, of course, you think you're the whole world or whatever. But it's basically a very idealistic kind of a, you know, like I said, it's very personal, right? And he says Bruce Elder's tension is between this part of Brackage's filmmaking, and we can all see that in his filmmaking, right? Like, he wants everything to be extremely personal, and he says versus the self being embedded in a larger matrix. And this is where kind of Brackage's later films kind of come into, which we didn't do as much of. But he says towards the later parts of his films that Brakhage basically starts to see, instead of identifying with nature, you know, and he says basically Brakhage believes in God, but there's kind of two gods almost like contradictory in Brackage's films, where he says nature is either as the maker, or he says the maker is kind of this indefinable, more mysterious thing, and Brakhage kind of has this tension, you know, between the two. That's kind of where I mentioned it originally, but this in the first quote I read, and because I think this is really interesting, this idea of first, let me, because this is actually about the Dante Quartet. If you remember the Dante Quartet, the last part of it, it's called Existence a Song, the last fourth of it, which is supposed to be basically heaven, you know. This is what Bruce Elder says. He says, quote, "With all this evidence, it seems certain that what Brakhage thinks about song will tell us something about the greater being through which he escapes solipsism. Rilke's poem asserts that it is not longing or passion that will enable humans to learn true music, for true singing comes from a different breath, a breath about nothing, a gust within God, a wind. True singing results from abandoning desire, turning one's inner being nearly into nothing. True singing results not from identifying the self with nature, but from allowing the self to dissolve in a greater nothingness. That is the view of singing that Brakhage evolved toward. In Brackage's later work, song represents the greater maker, with which the filmmakers strive to connect to break out of the circle of consciousness. And I think that's so beautiful, just like, because, I mean, that even explains Anticipation of the Night for me in a way, because it's almost like a filmmaker trying to escape, you know, this kind of overthinking, like, solipsistic self, you know, and and he wants to enjoy this kind of childhood scene, and he's like, you know, basically dreading the anticipation of the night, you know, which you could say is adulthood, at least in my opinion. But then this is where it makes Brakhage really interesting, and why he's like, I mean, like, for me, all true great filmmakers, they're very, you could almost say contradictory in a way, because time is contradictory, but because he also says Brakhage in some cases, where I just read this long quote about how Brakhage almost sees being not identifying with nature, but trying to identify with something that's more indefinite than nature. He says at other time, actually, Brakhage even identifies specifically with nature. And he says, he points out this quote from Brakhage where he says, this is a Brakhage quote where he says, quote, "I believe in song. That's what I wanted to do, and I did it quite selfishly, out of my own need to come through to a voice that is comparable with song, and related to all animal life on earth. I believe in the beauty of the singing whale. I am moved deeply at the whole range of song that the wolf makes when the moon appears, or neighborhood dogs make, that they make their song, and and that this is the wonder of life on earth, and I in great humility wish to join this," unquote. Yeah, like, I just wanted to kind of point out this tension, because I even think, like, even from these 8 movies we see, like, you can kind of see this tension between the two. And, like, this is also Bruce Elder says this, where he says, if Brackage's cinema became more non-representational, it's because more and more the reality he strived to suggest was non-objective, non-material, elusive, unstable. So, I mean, I also think that's just another great way to put it, to kind of make this distinction. Like, if the earlier filmmaker saw himself as almost identifying with nature, right? And that's why he's filming more representational nature objects. The later filmmaker, he sees this kind of greater maker as indefinable, you know, abstract. So then what does he film? He makes more abstract films. And then I think that's just like a great way to kind of look at that in a way. Because, like, in a way, these the abstract films do feel more spiritual, you know, like, especially Dante Quartet.
Oh, Dante Quartet, like, definitely feels spiritual.
But even Water from Io, just from the, I mean, even Moth Life, fuck, honestly, but like all of them. But now I'm thinking about it, but yeah, yeah. Okay, last thing before we get to the movies. Damn, because I'm still under an hour, honestly. So, I know I mentioned kind of metaphors on vision was the book of Brackage's title, and maybe the main metaphor he makes for cinema to me, and because to me it's like I've seen a lot of these film theory theoreticians I've read over the years and stuff. A lot of them come back to the word magic, you know, to describe cinema. Yeah. And Brakhage says, first he says, I love this. Méliès was the first person in history. He says, quote, "Méliès creates perhaps the first silently audible rhythm in the aesthetic history of film. He is a drummer in a jungle of stage props at the dawn of the medium," unquote. But this idea of the first silently audible rhythm, because I'm going to mention this a little bit about Anticipation of the Night, but Brakhage even has this idea of, like, sound sense in silent films, to where, like, objects themselves, just when you see them, they have a sound to them. You know, even before you add the sound.
Yes.
You can kind of imagine in your head the sound. So, like, he says that Méliès is the first silently audible rhythm in film history. It's just great, you know, because he says he describes the this realm of magic of cinema is where the balance is struck between the two indefinable terms of intellect and feeling. And he says basically magic is the in-between of those two, of intellect and feeling. That's where magic comes in, or cinema. You know? And I don't know, I just think that's a great way to put that. He says, quote, "I see the intellect as always in charge of and charged by the feeling. Within this war between two indefinables, which I must inadequately term intellect and feeling, balances are struck under spell, establishing what I call the realm of magic." But yeah, to get into we can kind of go into the films now. I mean, I don't have anything specifically about the films because like these even these representational ones where he's filming like nature and stuff, like these don't have like narratives to talk about in that way.
No.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I like them in a way too, because I just want
So
like
you
I'm
wanna
just
talk
gonna
about,
ask what stands out, like anything that comes to your mind, like literally
Should we go
anything.
by like each one?
Even I'm gonna go. Well, I have them kind of grouped together too. So
Okay.
like I have Anticipation of the Night first.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, you said that. Okay.
Just like goddamn, like definitely like reminds you of, like it just like gives off a great feeling of just like experiencing kind of just like I don't even know how to explain it. Like I guess like the childlike kind of view of the world. Just like all these different like lights and stuff and all these different like it's very mad like the montage of like I don't know. It's like a lot of stuff is like vaguely looks like something, but it's like you're not completely sure. A lot of like nostalgia.
Yeah,
like,
honestly.
It's kind of trying to like.
But isn't that also why he kills himself at the end?
That's what I was gonna, cause like I'm glad you put it that way, cause literally I was about to ask Luke is like, basically if you describe what Luke said up to that point, you just think, oh, this is a very joyous movie, a very happy movie.
Because even
like, but like if you think like Anticipation of the Night, and like I wouldn't say it's a very joyous movie, like because of that title and like the way he's using the cutting, like there's always this night coming, like he's always cutting to this night that's like almost foreshadowing itself, you know, and then he cuts back to the exactly. So that's why it's interesting why you said that, because I think you can get both. Like it definitely has both in it.
No, it has like
that
kind of horror elements too.
Yes. Yeah. But like even like the like the daylight of the beginning scenes, you know, like when we first see the baby and just like bright daylight, to like there's already darkness coming with the kids while they're a little older.
Yes.
You know, it's still great. Like the lights they're in with this like carnival or something they're at.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane how good those shots are, too.
Like it's just like ridiculous. It's like every shot is just incredible.
Plus, you're kind of used to the rhythm.
Yeah.
I mentioned last week how Brakhage said like, if there's like one definable quality between what makes an art film, like he says the difference between The Yearling and Alcazar Balthazar is rhythm. That's the only difference between art.
Yearling?
Exactly. No, it's like some old Hollywood film. People would have known about it at the time. I think it was just like a studio Hollywood film.
So it's like the only difference is the rhythm.
Is a rhythm, basically. That's the only difference between an art film, what he would consider an art film, and like just a normal kind of studio, you know, industrial film, is rhythm. And that's just so important just thinking about Brakhage's film, because honestly, I would understand if people said, like, I've watched a lot of Brakhage, I still don't like him that much. Like, first of all, he is tiring, like, 100%. Like, like 12 minutes of window water baby, like, is, like, more tiring on your mind if you're actually paying attention and, like, watching everything and, you know, trying to come up with something, like, just, like, what it's about and stuff. It's a lot versus, like, you know, 2 hours of, like, a popcorn movie or something.
Movie,
yeah.
A Michael Bay movie, if you will.
Well, okay. I mean, talking about the...
Michael Bay's movies are tiring.
Wait, find that,
I mean, that's true. They can't
find the Michael... fuck, who was it? Olivia Assay quote on Michael Bay. It's actually very relevant to this podcast.
It's very relevant.
Google it.
Olivier
Assay.
I don't even know how
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his name either.
It's actually kind of...
Michael Bay.
But is there anything, while he's looking that up, is there anything about Anticipation of the Night that...
No, I would definitely say, like, it definitely feels like... I mean, someone trying to almost remember how good life used to be, almost. Let's see.
I think I found the quote.
I think so.
Hold on. Let me find the full one.
Oh, okay.
Because I found, like, a snippet of it, and I want to see, like, the full one.
Oh.
It's almost like remembering how good life maybe used to be, or how you used to see life, kind of like how we've been saying, but also like he's seeing his kids at the same time and like realizing that they're going to be kind of like how he is now.
This quote is such Danny fucking like this is such a Danny like.
Well, it's, you know why I remember the quote. Like,
Danny Panda
Blake,
quote
and I
right
was on the record. Blake brought Michael Bay up. I did not.
That is actually true. Like
so,
you kind of fell into his trap here.
In the trap that I didn't set, Blake fell into the trap that we're much. Michael Bay is much closer to the greats than we realize.
I, for my part, regard cinema as a whole. Narrative cinema has always fed on experimental works, just as the latter have always been inspired by the limits or deadlocks of figuration. What I mean is that there is some Brakhage in Michael Bay and some Warhol in Fassbinder or Almodovar.
Wow. I just kind of want to end the podcast right there. No, but
great job.
I didn't know he mentioned Brakhage. I just knew like he compared Michael Bay to like experimental film basically because of his style.
He said Brakhage.
Damn, that's so insane. Let's fucking go. You meant it as an insult.
That honestly seems
he meant it as a compliment.
It's honestly like, did you pay Blake to say that? Like,
I paid him.
You got Blake before. Like, mention Michael Bay at some
make me look good. You see, that's how you know it wouldn't happen. So, because it would make you look good. Because you never let that happen. That's how we know it's all organic, baby.
Yeah.
Actually, okay. So Brakhage said about this film. Apparently, his original plan. He was like kind of like I said. All of his films were like. He's filming stuff while like he's trying to make his life very connected to it in a way, but he's like he said he was like going through a very depressing time in his life and he like just broken up with a girl or something while he was making it, and at one point his idea for the film was to basically end it with his own suicide, like for a time like that was his idea. But then as he was making it,
was really going.
But then he met another girl, got married,
got
married, and then he's like I'm not gonna do that.
Let me post
so his original plan was to actually commit suicide, but
that's crazy.
Yeah, but you know, luckily he didn't. Sometimes I don't know.
You can see that in this movie.
You can definitely see that kind of like kind of tension.
Yes, this movie was made in 1958, by the way.
I know.
I just realized that. That's the same year like Vertigo came out.
That's Breathless, right?
Breathless is 1960.
This is before Breathless, dude. That's just so insane.
That's insane.
See, honestly, I even had this thought while watching Nouvelle Vogue. Is like we need a movie to fucking make it like Dog Star Man over. That might be more interesting than making of Breathless.
I guess Breathless is like the least interesting of his. Although I get why he chose it because like obviously like
money.
Is there money in it though? Like, it's a Netflix movie too. Like, it's more like content.
Like I feel like I feel like Weekend might be more interesting, or maybe Pure Le Fou, or like La Chine, or Alphaville. There's like a lot of other Godard films I think are more interesting.
They might be more interesting.
But I can understand why you choose Breathless for a making of, because you're trying to add some drama. You know, it's a narrative film.
But also Weekend, especially because that's when you detach from narrative. That's when he's kind of like done with narrative. Like, or just like done with
was Linklater
classical
trying
cinema.
to make,
done with
was he trying to make a non-narrative movie? I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
I kind of. I mean, even though the narrative is, this film is going to get made, kind of thing. Like, even though we kind of know it is, but we could do that on the episode, maybe.
Anyway.
Maybe not. But back to Anticipation of the Night. Brakhage said his quote about the movie. His view at the time was that, quote, all of childhood was just an anticipation of the night of adulthood, unquote. Yeah. I mean, that kind of makes sense. This critic, Ken Kelman, says, quote, the pressure of death breaks down the habitual ways of seeing and makes possible absolute and direct vision of life, vision without preconception or restraint. And then Sidney, William C. Wee says this is kind of Sidney's gloomier view, but Sidney says, quote, this film describes the doomed quest for an absolutely authentic, renewed, untutored vision, unquote. And basically that doomed quest part, you know, almost this idea of like, as much as we want to keep seeing like a child, you know, as much as we want to have these first impressions, like we actually never can. Like once we're not a child anymore, like the night comes, you know.
And that's kind of what I was like saying with the ending. It's kind of like he realized that it's still a cycle because he's looking at his kids too. And he's like, they're seeing the world how I want to see it, but they're going to be like me at some point, and so that's why the ending's just kind of like,
yes,
almost like giving up, almost. But
no, But this is something we've actually talked about on a few episodes. We talked about it last week, I think, with Maya Darren. Her ending the film with the death, and whether that was a happy ending or not, you know. And I think I mentioned this, like, the main point is, though, a film is fiction. You know, it's not real life. This idea of death in fiction is supposed to kind of, like, almost show something. And, so Sidney says, quote, "So at the very end of this film, to find a culminating final image, Brakhage is forced to fictionalize. He is forced to show that this questing figure kills himself. But in doing so, he shows that the questing figure is essentially a fiction, a necessary fiction. What Wallace Stevens would call, quote, supreme fiction, unquote, in order to get the construction going in which the very dialectic can occur." Especially that last line, to get the construction going in which the very dialectic can occur. This idea of, like, the fiction is what allows this dialectic of thinking of basically this podcast to happen, you know, talking about the death in the first place, you know, why it happens like that, you know, a necessary fiction, as Sidney puts it. And then William C. Wees on a very similar thing, because he says originally that, like, you know, Sidney has this gloomier view of this doomed quest, you know, as the film shows. But William C. Wees says, quote, "Thematically, the quest for untutored vision may be doomed, but formally it succeeds, at least to the extent that the camera movement can break down the habitual ways of seeing and achieve a more precise equivalent of direct and immediate active seeing." And basically that idea, that's where I think why you even come to say it's your favorite film, you know, or one of the films you've seen, your favorite of these, you know, because he says it formally succeeds. You know, this, like, it feels like it does such a great job of just formally, you know, giving you this kind of impressions that we've already talked about, you know.
I mean, it's fictional, but it's also kind of like parallel life, almost. Like, in a different life, this is how it actually would have ended for him himself, for, like, Brakhage himself. So it's like, yes, it's fictional, but at least in the maker's eyes, it's something that could have been an easy reality. Because, like you already said, he was actually kind of thinking about doing this. And
you're not surprised when, like, you see the film, you're like, oh, I can see a guy that was thinking about this, you know, or something. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, what Sidney says is the, I guess, okay, it's hard for me to kind of transition. I was trying to find a good way to transition, but he says basically movement is okay, let me put this better. In Metaphors of Vision, he has like a section where, like, Brakhage, like, answers a bunch of letters and stuff he wrote over the years.
Yeah.
And someone had asked him, I think it's in a literal sense, like, why does he move a lot? Like, he would move around to different places. And he says, quote, "Time and time again, I've changed location, moved back and forth across this country, which I suppose many people have wondered about. The reason is simple. It's the only private personal key I have for the coffin lid. It's a trick with which I stay alive, a change of scene and a way of life being that gimmick, if you will, with which I reawaken the self, re-illusion the dreamer, and thus prevent the death of the spirit, all that I hold dear in life. I try to anticipate the night always, before it is closed in entirely. In my recurring nightmare, the one in which mad dogs pursue me across the swamp at night and eventually tear me to pieces, is just this change of location, this running. I refuse to be held at bay. The dogs will tear me to pieces if I'm ever caught." And, like, this idea of just the moving camera, I mean, that's one of the central Brakhage themes, you know, this, like, never steady camera, like, everything's always moving, you know, back and forth, like, cutting, like, just constantly moving, you know, to where, like, it can get very tiring. But, like, you could say, like also, like, brought up, like, you could tell there's something very personal about it, you know?
Yes.
And that's why I love Brakhage so much. It's like, very similar to how I talked about Maya Darren last week. Like, he found such a unique style. Like, that was just, like, it's Brakhage, you know? Like, the second you see it, it's like, you can only see a few frames of Brakhage film almost and be like, oh, that's a Brakhage movie. You know?
Yeah.
And, like, for, like, how hard that is to do in cinema.
It's like, damn, I recognize nothing on the screen. So it's a Brakhage movie.
But there's a lot of films like that, though. I mean,
damn,
I'm talking more about the
rhythm. I feel
movie.
like I'm having a stroke right now.
There
That's
you
a Brakhage movie.
Well, it depends on the movie, though. I will say some of the later movies we did are much more calmer and, like Star Garden. I wouldn't say.
Damn,
it's
it feels like
cars.
I'm dying going to heaven. It's a Brakhage movie.
Okay, now you're naming a lot of stuff. So
I need something that combines all three of those.
Moving. That's what I'm saying. Movement.
It looks like stuff is moving, so it's a Brakhage movie.
But the camera specifically.
The camera moves a lot in a lot of movies.
But okay, let me put it this way. Yes, but not this kind of way. Like where you're supposed to notice the camera moving
still
too.
Image. You said you see a frame of the movie, and then you know it's Brakhage.
I said a few frames.
Okay, that's different.
Well, in some of these it's not, because like literally every frame is changing, like to like a different image, almost different painted image. So where you are literally noticing like the frame changes.
Okay, that's different. Then, yeah.
That's what makes them Brakhage. That's exactly what I said.
I thought you said one frame, and I was like,
well, I said frames. You can check the tape, but
no, I'm not down. I thought you said something different.
We're like 3 check the tapes already today.
I know we are.
Yeah.
I'm just glad the Michael Bay one worked out. I'm glad the Michael Bay one worked out. But honestly, we can go on to I basically grouped Window, Water, Baby moving and the active scene with one of those eyes, like
very fair. Pairing them together
in terms of
the two ones I had most trouble watching, basically.
The most trouble watching?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say I definitely had trouble watching the active scene with my own eyes after a specific.
Yeah, I still don't really like watching someone get that.
After a specific
shit
amount of
pulled
time
out
I
of
had,
which didn't really like
difficulty watching it.
Like,
wait, which movie are you talking about there?
I was mainly thinking of the active seeing of one's own eyes.
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't call the baby shit. That's not what I would have used.
I didn't say that either. I was asking what
you were implying that.
No,
you're implying that I was like calling the baby shit.
No.
I don't like that. But yeah, tough watches. But like I get it.
Wait, what do you get then?
Like what's good about him?
Like, what do you get out of them? Like, what is it?
Like the baby moving, just like almost like him filming like someone being birthed. Yeah. Like it's just like almost like a.
So that's the documentary part.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know how to describe it. Like a new human being. I guess they kind of fit together because it's like the window water baby moving. It's like a baby that like is like as we were kind of talking about earlier, like the untutored eye.
Yes.
Like kind of just like experiencing, like being brought into the world for the first time. It's kind of like a crazy thing to think about. And then like on the other side of the spectrum, it's like the dead person's like, damn, this person had like thoughts, feelings, emotions. Yes. They had like regrets and they had problems and now they're just dead. And then like your brain sees the brain and you're like, what the fuck?
There are some crazy moments like that. There are a few,
There are a lot of crazy moments.
They're pulling a bunch of shit out of there. You're like, ugh. Yeah.
What about you, Blake? Is there anything that stands out from these?
No, yeah, I said earlier, I think that the window water baby moving. Such a weird title.
Well, I think it makes a little like I was thinking of the movie Arabesque again.
Okay.
Where she talks about, remember I mentioned that poem that mentioned at the beginning? It's like literally just the words from the poem, like filmed almost.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Almost,
baby movie,
yes, exactly. You're supposed to read it like that. Like every word matters, like he's like every film matters. Like every frame matters in a Brakhage film. Like every word in the title literally has.
Because it's like I definitely was not expecting to watch A Birth today. Whenever I watched it, but it definitely. It's both like it's very, very, very personal to them, but he also films it in a way where it's like he's filming an animal, kind of. Like this is how we film animals in documentaries. Whenever we've all seen Private Life of a Cat. This is literally what they do in Private Life of a Cat. They filmed a cat giving birth very graphically. Yes. But he's just doing it on a way more personal subject that we usually wouldn't associate with something like that. Like, you wouldn't usually be okay with someone filming you like this, I guess. Yes. But it's also just really beautiful to watch life happen. And that's also where the kind of whiplash I got from watching with my own eyes or whatever, seeing with your own eyes. Because, like, I watched those two back to back, and this one, it definitely gave me some whiplash, because I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched a lot of dark shit.
No.
But it's different whenever you're watching it happen on real things.
Exactly.
Exactly. Like, this is a glimpse into a life that we never see.
Yes.
Like, we never see this part of life.
Yes.
The death part.
Actually, I'm really glad you said that, because this is the quote I have for... That's why I grouped these films together, because it made me... This is one of my favorite Brakhage quotes, where he says, quote, "So there's a lot of crying in my films, and struggle, and unhappiness, and all the things that come into it, the process of daily living. My films don't present a sentimental or easy sense of daily living, and that's disappointing to a lot of people in some ways, because they want it as it is on TV, you know, Leave It to Beaver or whatever," unquote. And, I mean, that kind of goes, I think, to what you were saying. But even more specifically, it made me think of... someone asked him, did she mind... Because this was his wife, obviously.
Yeah.
Someone asked him, did she mind you filming your birth? Did she mind your filming the birth? And he said, no, she realized that's how I could be there the most. We both knew that I could be there if I was creating
That's his
film.
wife?
Yeah, that's his wife.
It would have to be. There would be no one else that would be okay with you doing this. That's kind of why it's also kind of beautiful, because, like, you know that his wife understands him enough to, like, say, like, oh, yeah.
Did he show it to his kid when he was older? Like,
Well, I mean, that's him also in the movie,
shit,
too.
Bro. Look at
That's
you.
also him in the movie.
Yeah, he's in the movie.
And those are his kids in Star Garden, like...
But, like, did you think he showed it to his kids? Like, when
I mean, they've probably seen them.
Like, damn, that's me right there.
You think his kids have seen
I'm popping out. Let's go.
There ain't no fucking way, man. If
I mean, they
watch
probably
this
watched it at
kid-
some point.
Maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe. I'm just saying.
I wonder if he was like, I wonder if he like,
wouldn't
down,
want
like,
to.
I wonder if he like downplayed it when he told them. He was like, yeah, no,
That's no big deal.
I see, I captured your first moments on film. You're watching the kid
Your
like,
first
yeah,
moments.
sure, yeah.
Whenever I
How
say
bad
that,
could
I
it
mean
be?
you're
And then it
very
shows it like the
specific.
graphic details. They're like, what the fuck?
Well, to me, what's even like I didn't finish the quote, but the funniest part and like for Brakhage, maybe the truest part is he said even his wife realized the way he could be there in the room the
Yes.
best was if he was filming. You know, he said like he would have struggled. Like he talks about how he would have struggled and been like every other husband if he was just normally in there, or like most husbands if he was just normally in there in the room. But he's like, he said because he goes on to talk about. He talks about how women will have a good relationship with the doctor because they actually know what's going on. You know, they've been there before. Yeah. But the husbands will kind of be a panic and just like not knowing what's going on. And he says, a woman at that stage can often have a good relationship with the doctor because he is capable of receiving the child and helping it out. But a husband is too emotionally involved at a moment like this. I literally could not have watched the birth if I had not been working. I'm sure I would have passed out, but since I was working and intensively involved with my own concerns, Jane and I could be together in the most clear sense. And honestly, he might be talking a little more about just his life in general, you know. But that's me reading a little bit into that. But then this is one of my. He said this in a lecture too, because I think to be this is one blind spot obviously for us is we're all male, you know. Yes. So we're never having any kids here, at least. So we're never giving physically birth.
Yeah, baby's not coming out of us.
Yeah, exactly. So I am curious, like, what women would think, like, especially if they haven't given birth before, or even if they had, like, what they think of this kind of experience, you know.
Let me go show this to some people.
Well, it depends on what people are showing. It's like if they like art film, maybe.
Yeah, you have to like.
Actually, okay, I didn't confirm this, but I was listening to a podcast about Brakhage, and they mentioned how Tarkovsky watched this movie, and like hated it, and Brakhage loves Tarkovsky.
Really?
But Google that to make sure, because I don't know, I didn't look it up or anything.
Who would love this movie? Takashi Miike. He probably watched it before making Gozu, honestly.
But I don't remember what happened. But see, this is
you don't remember. Oh, damn, you haven't watched Gozu since you watched it, obviously.
No, But does it treat it like negative though, or like is there like?
No, we talked about it on the podcast where it's like, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe
like horrific, maybe, because it's not horrific.
I mean, it's a little horrific.
Know? Well, it's not horrific in like this
but
is just reality.
But at the end of the day, in Gozu, it's kind of a good thing because he's being born again. You know, like.
Mm.
Do you not remember?
I don't remember the movie at all.
I don't. Yeah.
Someone listening will hopefully know what you're talking about.
I mean, they probably will if they've seen it.
Yeah, if they've seen it, yeah.
Oh yeah, he like Brakhage like said in an interview like talked about it, like because apparently Tarkovsky watched he like screened it to Tarkovsky and his wife. Apparently, yeah. He said, and then I see Tarkovsky's wife averting her face from the screen at times, as you get to see some of the more explicit details of childbirth. Tarkovsky starts talking in rapid Russian, with Zanussi answering him. Whatever he's saying, it's obviously angry. Finally, after a lot of these exchanges, Jane had the presence of mind to say, "What's going on? What's he saying?" So Zanussi said, Zanussi starts translating, and he says, "Well," and we all wait. "Well," he says, and we wait some more. He says that art must have a mystery to it, and this is too scientific to be art.
Interesting. There is that scientific documentary aspect to it. But to me, that's like why I say like I would like to know what women would think about this film, like especially like I mean either side if they hadn't or if they had given birth, because Brakhage in his one of his lectures he gives, he says one of the best compliments he ever received about a film was a woman basically she said told him that she thought about this film when she was going to give birth, and it gave her a lot of peace, you know, in terms of like what to expect when experience, and you know, and he said, quote, "You can't be more honored than that. I mean, I think that is what art is for. You rarely get a feedback like that, because what art also does is take hundreds of years usually to do its thing, you know, so you rarely get any feedback where it's done so spectacularly what I think it's normally supposed to do, which is to help us be inspired to live and survive whatever difficulties happen, and do so honestly without trickery and sentimentality or anything." And then honestly, just what I had about the active scene with one of his eyes, I had this thought both times before I watched it. I mean, I've watched it twice, and I've talked about this a lot, how I've like read a lot about Buddhism over the years, and one of the like traditions in Buddhism I remember reading about is there's like this tradition for like they used to have monks do is like what they I think call like corpse meditation, or like meditating on a dead body, and they would literally have you go like after a body was dead, you would go and meditate on it for like 3 days and just watch it decompose. And like you can there's like one of these traditions was called the quote 9 stages of decay, but apparently there's different types of meditation practices like this, and they literally go through the 9 stages of decay that you're supposed to watch while you're watching this body. And basically it's meditation, you know, you're supposed to, that's why I said it's very similar to this type of movie. Basically all these kind of thoughts you have while you watch a dead body, you know. You said a lot of things about like damn, that was like a real person, you know, now they're dead. But for me, like a lot of my thoughts are, and maybe I'm more selfish, I'm just like, that's me someday, you know, that's just my body, you know. Like it almost like in a very spiritual sense makes me think about like what is there a soul, like if the soul is real, like that's what's different than what a body is, you know, just watching this kind of body being taken apart, you know, like hand, just everything. But obviously there was something else there, you know, which made it alive before all this stuff is happening to it in a way. And then that's the reason I said this, because I had thought about this before I saw this this Brakhage quote, where he says, quote, "The making of an art is really to make something visible that would otherwise be unbearable, either unbearable because it was even unbearable because it was too joyful. You know, you can go crazy being too happy. You see, particularly kids do this all the time. They get more and more excited, and then somebody falls down for sure, and it all falls to pieces in catastrophic ways. So the making of an art is to see something or to hear something that makes it possible to both sense and to think about it. A meditation piece, you could say. And you could say in a sense that all art is a meditation piece. So my hope, in fact, I would never release a film unless it has achieved that. I wouldn't say exactly peace with death or something like that, but that I would be able to meditate upon these images within a form that permitted that meditation. Otherwise, it would be a shocking film. It would just be shocking, which is a very easy thing to do." And that's, I mean, he puts it great, but like, that's why I love this film too, because it's a horrific movie in a certain way, you know. Like a lot of these images could be used in a horror movie. Like you could insert. Yes, we have. Yeah, so exactly.
That's what I was saying. It's just different watching it. Like, but actually, like real people, basically.
And I think that's where this distinction comes in, at least in a way too, because he's not using them to shock. No. At least in that kind of way a fictional film does. If they're shocking, it's because this is reality. You know, They're shocking in that way. But really, he's trying to make you think, that meditation part, you know, of the shocking, you know. Or like, why do we even see this as shocking in the first place if it's just a body, you know? Like, And actually, one more thing, especially the second time I watched it, there's a film that I actually thought a lot about, because the first time I saw more of the Doctors of kind of like just these detached characters, you know, a little bit. But the second time, it's almost like by the end of the movie, you almost see them as like loving the bodies, almost in a way, you know.
Well,
like
their washing of the bodies is definitely loving,
and just everything they're doing to it.
Yeah, it's very ritualistic.
Ritualistic and just like very caring for how much detail they're having to put. Even a very disgusting thing in a way, you know, but and for like how much care and respect they're having to show for every part of the body in a way. And it made me think of Size I Don't Want to Sleep Alone, when we see like all the cleaning the body and just like the meditating the body and stuff, you know, just like it made me think of that aspect, because like I even think I read a side quote about that where he's like, normally we think of love as just like romantic love, but love is like just taking care of someone every day, or you know, just like taking care of the body and how difficult that can be, you know, and stuff like that. And it's like almost this movie's like just about that, but even after death too, like that could even still be true in a way. But yeah, that's all I had for those. What do you guys think of? I bet the next two movies I have that are kind of similar is Mothlight and Garden of Earthly Delights. These are more just like. I
like the colors.
Honestly, like these are more just like because they're so short. It's like just watch these.
I like the colors and the shapes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's crazy what he's able to do with a dead moth, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the Garden of.
Are there any things that make you think of like why he would use a moth like in this kind of way?
I was gonna say the Garden of Delights kind of like cave painting, low key.
Dang. Okay.
But I don't really know if that's what he's going for. Just kind of nice.
Well, there's this old painting called the Garden of Earthly Delights by this painter Hieronymus Bosch.
Yeah.
That's a triptych, so it's like three like paintings next to each other, kind of.
Yeah.
And he's kind of basically trying to draw associations with that painting. Let me actually read the quote. I found this on Wikipedia though. He says, quote, "At the time I made the Garden of Earthly Delights, I was very annoyed with Hieronymus Bosch's painting of the same name, which envisions nature as puffy and sweet, while the humans are suffering these torments. After all, nature suffers as well. As a plant winds itself around, in its desperate reach for sunlight, it undergoes its own torments. We are not the only ones in the world." Unquote. So almost like...
I like that.
I do like that. And you could say that describes Mothlight as well.
Yeah.
Because, like... he said, like, he got the idea when he was, like, in a very, like, dark grief... Like, he was in a very dark moment in his life. And, he was watching these moths just, like, fly into flames, literally, and just die. And he's, like... He said, basically, like, he was comparing himself to them, like... He says, like, I was also flying into flames and just not knowing what I was doing.
I guess depressed a lot.
I mean, it kind of seems like that.
Like,
no, but honestly, he has, like... I mean, we're about to talk about it, but these next two movies maybe are some of the most, like... uplifting movies in a way, you could say. Yeah. Star Garden and
he's the definition of the "it's so over" guy and the "we're so bad" guy.
Honestly,
like, just that.
These rapid back and forths. Damn. That's great. And I really think this is great because, like, he says in his way, like, he wanted to give the moths life again through the projector. You know, I do really wish we could. You know, obviously we live in fucking Arkansas, so we're never going to see these projected in a film, you know. To see how they're actually supposed to... Because Brakhage, like, was 100% on, like, you need to see these really in projected through a film because he wants you to hear the projector going, you know, and he says you can hear the kind of edits, the kind of film actually being shifted in an actual theater, you know, versus, like, on digital, it's all just seems so smooth, everything. Yes. Even when you're actually watching film projected, you can actually feel the film, you know, see the kind of cuts between frames and stuff a little more. But no, these are more like, yeah, just kind of almost taking this idea of like what you can do with abstract nature and making it almost spiritual, you know, like like I mentioned on week 1, some of what the early abstract artists' goals were with their own abstract painting. But all right, what about Star Garden? Is there anything that stands out about Star Garden to you?
It's just beautiful.
Just beautiful. More. My one thing I remember, like, I specifically noticed was like Star Garden feels a lot kind of more slower and a little calmer than like an active scene with One of Those Eyes and Wind and Water Baby movie.
It's a nice movie to sit in.
It is.
Yeah.
This one feels like the most like a home movie, I would say.
Okay. Yes, with the kids and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and like you said, how it's not as overly edited as the other ones are, or not overly edited, but just not as edited, I guess.
No,
even though it still is, obviously, but
yeah, it still is. Yeah, definitely like compared to like a normal movie.
Compared to a normal movie.
And it does seem there's some kind of story here. I still didn't fully get it, but these like kids like leaving the house, going outside. There's like this great moment of that kid with the cape on, almost like this flower cape, and he's like walking in slow motion. And he like goes and kisses his cow and then comes back. Like I still don't know exactly how to read it, but you can almost to me you can almost read like mythically a little bit. Like these are almost like gods or something. Like I couldn't find exactly what I was going for, but there's something to like there's like because you can notice like the environments change like first they're in the house a lot, and they're like reading something, like they're always in light, and then they move outside. There's like this weird shot with like a boat all of a sudden like outside for some reason. And then like the kid, that one boy just goes off like on a journey by himself, and like he specifically uses like really like extremely slow motion for that. And then like he comes back. It's just like you can read a story in there somewhere if you wanted to. But to me, the main part of this movie, why I picked it, I think we actually had this conversation once on the podcast, like the Sun and Moon directors.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the great Sun movies ever, honestly.
It opens and ends on a moon, though.
I mean, that is true. You're not wrong.
Moonheads be on top.
But this is the Sun movie, though. Like, okay, it's both. I can't lie. But
even then, he can't resist the moon.
I mean, more importantly, it's about. I mean, because the moon also has light, but also the star. It's more about light too, filming light, especially like how powerful light is on filming these kids. His kids. And basically, Bruce. I mean, all of them. Sidney, Bruce Elder. They basically all said, so Sidney says, quote, "For Brakhage, the definition of cinema is light and shadow. Cinema for him is primarily light and shadow." And then Bruce Elder said, quote, "Brackage's later writing suggests a dynamic metaphysics in which the reality of objects dissolves into the movement of light," unquote. I think that's a great way to describe this film, too, where reality of objects dissolve into the movement of light, Yeah. To where that's, like, the most important part. And that's where you can kind of see this kind of like later Brakhage, where I mentioned Bruce Elder earlier. This instead of filming nature directly, it's more about what light actually, this like light itself instead of just nature. It's kind of. The last movie we have is actually one more thing that I recognized specifically while watching Star Garden was It kind of reminded me of Ozu in the way of how when you watch Ozu's style, the way he films his actors, and then the way he films like a random object, he'll cut to, and then he films the actors again, and he goes back and forth. This style, filming everything the same way, it gets you really into this kind of everything is one, everything is part of the same world. This kind of everything is on even plane, and like Brakhage in his own way has the same kind of style, where like it's much more rapid and stuff, but like he's showing his kids in sunlight, and then all of a sudden this random object in sunlight, this random flower bowl or something that's flower vase in sunlight, this room in sunlight, and then back to the kids in sunlight, but they're all filmed the same way. It's not like the kids get some special way of film treatment. Everything's filmed the same way, and it's not demoting the kids. Like it's in a way just kind of raising them up by putting them in a greater context, which is light in this case. But then the last film. Or last films, actually. So Dante Quartet and Water from Maya. Is there anything that stands out about these?
I mean, this is the painting on Sally.
I like the colors and the shapes.
You said it last time. No, okay.
I will say Dante Quartet is literally like watching pictures of the cosmos kind of go by on a film reel, but
honestly,
because some of them literally look like you're in a galaxy, like it's portraying a galaxy that you're seeing. So
especially by the end too.
Yes.
Also, I don't know if you guys noticed the kind of actually this film the last three acts there actually are some representational images.
I did think
briefly peeking out behind.
I did think there was, but I was like I could never
Water
see
from
it
Maya
fully. So
Dante Quartet.
Wasn't he like transposing images?
I think there's two. Yeah, superimposed.
Didn't Maya Deren do that too?
She might have done that.
I swear we mentioned it last week.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, it's another Maya Deren.
She definitely talks about that trick. I mean, we mentioned that superposition. But But I don't know if you guys... Did you guys even see the kind of story... I know you were the one who said... Have you read the Dante's Inferno?
I have read Dante's Inferno.
Did you see that in this one at all?
What do
you might have to watch it. Because this is supposed to be Dante's Inferno.
I might have to watch it again.
I've seen some people say this is the best interpretation of Dante's Inferno, but obviously you didn't think so. You didn't see it. No, I'm kidding. To be fair, this is only 6 minutes, so you can watch it a bunch.
Well, I didn't really like... I guess some of the frames could be like definitely hell like.
Well,
but
okay,
to me it was more so like Cosmos. I don't know.
Maybe next time. Well, next time you watch, I could what Sydney says is the reason why I mentioned the representational images is if you notice carefully. So every chapter is named, like the first one is named Hell itself. The second one is called Hell Spit Flexion. The third one is called Purgatory, or I think Purgation, but it's basically Purgatory. Purgation. And then fourth is basically supposed to be heaven, but what he calls, quote, existence is song. And basically those are supposed to be the 4 parts of that this film goes through. And one part makes you notice that is that in Hell itself is the only time you actually don't see any representational images. It's supposed to be like it's only abstract, and then like as you keep going on into the different stages, you start to get more and more of the representational mixed with the kind of abstract until the very end. Also, if you notice, I noticed it this time. I watched it again. The aspect ratio changes for every chapter, basically.
I did not notice
until we get like the best aspect, because Hell Spit Flexion kind of almost like shows a frame inside a frame, and most of it's black, and it's like kind of just small.
Yeah.
And then the last frame, it even seems like he's like saturating the colors even more by the end, to even make it seem more heavenly and stuff. So there's a lot of little stuff like you might not even notice it, like to what you can put in words, but you kind of feel this kind of progression as you're watching it. Like kind of like a song or something. If you're listening to a song, you can just feel that. As Elder puts it, the Dante Quartet concerns the hell of false, solipsistic imagining, and the release from hell by identifying with something higher that also breathes in him. And so that's where you can say the hell is the kind of being stuck in this solipsistic or just purely abstract imagining, and then he breaks out of it in a way.
We need to so it's kind of random, but a fun exercise might be trying to find song music or something to like curating music to play alongside some of these movies, like the abstract ones, because they are silent.
I don't know if he would want that though. That's the only thing.
Well, didn't you do Travis
I did
Scott
do that
with one of them
with the Stellar, I think.
Yeah,
they do kind of work.
What if I pair We Are Charlie Kirk with one of these?
Oh my god, we're closing out with that.
I think that's one of those things. If you listen a few weeks from now, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
That's true. It's gonna die. I don't think Blake knows.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, just we'll brief you afterwards.
Yeah,
we have to brief you.
It's
very important.
I'm a true oak. I'm not online, so
it's very, very important.
It's very important.
And I mean, I already mentioned earlier what I said about the Maya Deren one. Just this idea of water that, I mean, I even kind of had my own realization. You'll have to believe me, that was before I read this Brakhage thing. But,
I don't believe you.
I knew about it first.
Just thinking about the endings of the 3 movies we did last week. And almost kind of giving a blue to, because her movies are, obviously black and white, So even adding just blue to kind of think of Maya Deren in that kind of context too, But maybe to kind of close this out, I mean, especially for these 2 movies, I had a Sydney quote where he says, quote, "As he likes to say, film should be about nothing at all. And in the very short films that he's now making, sometimes at a rate of 4 per month, there's a sense of an opening into the ineffable," unquote.
4 per month. It's crazy.
Yeah, some of these later hand-painted ones, or just abstract ones. And they're short too.
They are, yeah.
But yeah, that's Stan Brakhage. Next week we're doing Jordan Belson. Originally it was supposed to be Brakhage and Belson this week, and then as I was prepping for Brakhage, I was like, "There's no way I can do."
Who'd you cut from the series because that the?
I'm cutting a few people because
Damn.
I thought I was gonna do 2 or 3, because Ernie Garrett's the last week, and he's a structuralist. He's called structuralist film director, quote unquote. But I thought I could do a few more structuralists. I was like, no, I'm basically cutting down a lot. I thought I was gonna have one. Yeah. Okay, but either way, it's better just to go one per director, I think. But yeah, Jordan Belson next week. Until then, hope to see you floating through the clouds.
Imagine an eye unruled by man-made laws of perspective, an eye unprejudiced